Ocala's information station, 1370 WOCA. Ocala.
All right, 6 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for tuning in to The Source, WOCA, this nice-looking Thursday morning. Hope you're doing well. Temperatures look like they'll behave today. It's not going to get into the 3 digits anyway. Still hot, though. I'm just sorry, be aware of that. Do you know, years ago, a long time ago, in the 70s, I was in Southern California, and I went to a restaurant called the Great American Food and Beverage Company, I think. I think that was the name of it. And the waiters sang or juggled or told jokes. The waiters and waitresses were all talented in some way or other, playing musical instruments. And in addition to waiting tables and bussing tables and whatever else normal, typical employees do at restaurants, they were also just simply being the entertainment. It was a very super fun atmosphere. Our next guest has an idea too that has made him successful, which is to make it fun for the employees at his restaurants. And one of the restaurant chains that he started was a familiar name. We had this whole story the other day about how movie companies are remaking movies because it's a familiar name, right? It's like an easier way to make money when something's familiar to us all. Well, do you remember the movie Forrest Gump? There was the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company, which was a fictional shrimp company. Well, our next guest took that fictional name, and there's this whole area of the book, by the way, with intellectual property rights. You know,
I think that's amazing.
And so all of the hurdles that Scott Barnett had to maneuver around and through and over are detailed in the book, and the book is appropriately named and cleverly named Gumption. Taking Bubba Gump from movie to restaurant. Scott Barnett is on the phone. He's the founder and CEO of Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. Good morning, Scott. How are you?
Good morning. Doing well, thank you.
And where are you right now?
I am in San Diego, in California.
All right. Well, thank you for being on the air with us. So there were so many levels to this. And the one thing that I think stands out for me, well, first of all, your book is very inspirational, especially from a business perspective, because anybody who's ever gone into any business at all and looks at successful people, you always see people who are, I know it's a cliche, thinking out of the box, but I can't think of a better way to say this, but always coming up with innovative ideas, always coming up with something a little bit different. And that's what you did, even though the name was from the movie. Mm-hmm. Correct?
Yeah, I think we did have, we were very fortunate. Paramount Pictures approached us with the idea of doing a restaurant around the movie Forrest Gump. And we were running a company called Rusty Pelican Restaurants, and we had just had to put it through a Chapter 11 reorganization, and we were setting about looking for a growth vehicle because the company was finally healthy. And that's when we were approached. And I think that, like we told everybody who came up with an idea in those days for us, oh, that's a great idea. And as we delved into it and started to look at it, and as the research later confirmed, there was an unforced translation from the movie to a restaurant. It made sense that restaurant would exist. You know, as in the movie, Forrest builds the Bubba Gump Shrimp Company, right, in kind of in reverence to his friend Bubba, who's killed in war. And I had so many people come up to me during the time there and say, "Oh, I knew you had the shrimp company. I just didn't know you had the restaurant." And it was clearly life imitating art.
Oh, that is kind of funny, yeah. And so, were there intellectual property rights that had to be acquired, or was that already given since the studio had been the first one to approach you?
Well, Paramount owns the intellectual property to Forrest Gump, and we became licensees of Paramount using a license. And they also, however, invested in the company and were owners of the company as well. So they owned a fair percentage of the company.
How important, this is kind of a business question, but how important is name? I mean, the Rusty Pelican, that's a pretty clever name and a pretty, it's a very memorable name. Bubba Gump being It's a great name, even if it hadn't been in a movie. But the fact that it was in a movie makes it obviously even a better choice.
Well, what you're really talking about there is the value of branding, and it's incalculable. We had 93% unaided recognition of Bubba Gump Shrimp Company and linking it to the movie Forrest Gump. So the immediate brand awareness was very powerful. But you talk about the name, and the name is critical. It's the name that brings them in. Ultimately, though, in the restaurant business, it's about hot food hot, cold food cold, service with a smile,
right.
Pleasant, clean, authentic surroundings.
Right.
And if you deliver on those things, then the people not only come in, they'll come back.
And you just didn't jump into this, though. I mean, throughout your whole life, you've had relations with the different aspects of the restaurant business, from everything from bussing and cleaning to bartendering.
Oh yeah, no, I was my first job in the restaurant business. I wasn't even inside. I was a valet parking attendant at a steakhouse in Palm Desert, California. And one night, a hostess came out and talked to me and said, "Well, you're going to bus tables tonight." And I said, "Okay." So I go inside, and the hours just kind of flew by, and it was hard work, but it was fun, and I liked the people I was working with, and it was like putting on nightly theater every night. So I kind of caught the bug, and then over the course of the next several years, as I was going to college, I worked as a bartender, a cook, a dishwasher. I did everything.
You know, and the importance of the staff at a restaurant being happy and actually enjoying their job, regardless of whether they're bussing tables or parking cars. To me, that makes sense. We were watching this thing on cruise lines, and some of the workers on the cruise lines are very unhappy with it. So it's almost like they're super unhappy, just to put it that way. So I would imagine that translates to the experience for the customer or for the passenger in the cruise ship case.
You know, what it was at Bubba Gump, and I talk about this in my book, Gumption, we really believed that we needed to hire for attitude and train for technique. We had one of the things we did, which is a little unusual, was we used 3 table sections for our food servers. Well, if you're waiting on 3 tables as a food server, anyone can do that. You can teach anybody to be a waiter with 3 tables. But you cannot teach a jerk to be a nice guy. That cake was baked years ago.
There you go.
And so what we would, so when we when we started out, we didn't have a lot of rules. And in fact, the only real basic rules that we had were at what we call the top 10. And the first of the top 10 was that we'll show total care and concern for each other and the guest. And that means that you treat other people who you work with the same way you would treat a guest in your home or a guest in the restaurant. And that because there were no rules and because people had fun at work and they liked it, well, that connoted itself to the customer, and the customer was having fun, and they would come in, and instead of getting an experience, they would become part of the experience. And in the end, what they came away with and what we were really trying to sell them was an emotional souvenir. We weren't just trying to sell food and service. We were trying to sell an emotional souvenir.
Right, you're a great word man. I like that, emotional souvenirs. I like entertainment, too. I never saw that word before. The word entertainment with entertainment. You're going to eat someplace and be entertained. So the restaurant I was describing in the opening goes back to 1977, in Santa Monica, by the way, where the wait staff and everybody else was singing and juggling, whatever else they were doing. They sort of grasped this whole idea of the workers literally entertaining, but you didn't go that far, did you?
No, not that often. I mean, we had a lot of servers who were entertainers, and they would do their shtick at the restaurant. We had some who were magicians, and they'd do magic tricks for the customers. They might pull out a deck of cards and do a card trick. Chris Pratt, who's now starring in the new Jurassic World. Chris Pratt was a food server at the Maui restaurant.
Oh, wow.
Was actually discovered at the Maui Bubba Gump by a casting director. And he ended up a few months later on Picket Fences as a star, and, the rest is history. So, I mean, we hired a lot of people like that. And we were trying to create an atmosphere of fun and excitement. And we went to great lengths to do it.
Very cool. We need to take a little break, but we'll be right back. There's so much more that I want our guests to share with our listeners. Scott Barnett is on the phone. His book is called Gumption, Taking Bubba Gump from Movie to Restaurant. We'll take a little break and be right back. This is The Source, WOCA.
If you're anything like I was, the thought of getting older was the last thing on your mind. But here we are. For me, it started slowly. The lack of energy, never being in the mood. And when I was, I could never perform at my best. I tried the pills and other treatments with minimal results, and all but given up on my sex life. Then I found the doctors at New Male Medical Center. Wow, they made a new male out of me. Feel like I'm 25 again. I have renewed vigor, so much more energy, and no longer worry about my performance. New Male treated me like my situation was one of a kind, with a custom treatment plan that really works. I feel great. They can create one for you too. It does not matter if you suffer from low testosterone, erectile dysfunction, or just want to last longer. New Male will help you.
Call New Male Medical Center today at 352-404-4779. 352-404-4779. That's 352-404-4779. It will change your life. 352-404-4779.
You've got a garden and we've got a show for you called You've Got a Garden with your host, Master Gardener Carol Ann Baldwin. Carol Ann answers your questions about your flowers, your veggies, your grass, your trees, even questions about your bugs. And she's only on WOCA, so don't miss Carol Ann Baldwin and You've Got a Garden each Tuesday from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. right here on WOCA The Source.
Hospice of Marion County has an urgent need for volunteers to share a conversation with someone, run errands, hold someone's hand. All you need is a willingness to help others. Our volunteers believe the blessings they receive far exceed the services they offer. Will you consider serving, caring, and making a difference? Call today, 873-7441. Hospice of Marion County, making more moments of life possible.
WOCA. Ooh, ouch. Does pain have you glued to the couch? Yes, unfortunately it's true that every year we must get older, but that doesn't mean we have to deal with pain in our back, knees, or shoulder. If your muscles and joints are sore, don't worry anymore. Come get acupuncture from me and you'll be pain-free. Acupuncture starts as low as $35 at a Better You Healthcare. Call me, Dr. Erica Olstein, at 615-5566. Stop your pain from driving you insane.
All right, 18 minutes after 10 o'clock. Thank you for staying tuned to The Source. Scott Barnett is on the phone. He is talking about his book, Gumption, Taking Bubba Gump from Movie to Restaurant. You know, I was thinking during the break, Scott, about my choices of restaurants. I'm really not hard to please when it comes to the food, so I'm not good in that category. But it's the ambiance that I like, and I don't usually use any words that sound French, but that one I do. But you go to a restaurant, I just like if a restaurant feels enjoyable to be in. It's kind of a weird thing to have as a, you know, I don't like the ones that feel like cafeterias, if you know what I mean.
No, I absolutely know what you mean. And I think, you know, as I said earlier, hot food hot, cold food cold, service with a smile, and fun, interesting surroundings. And in the case of Bubba Gump's, what we tried to do, and I think we succeeded, was we tried to create an atmosphere that was very authentic, that would look and feel, sound like something that Forrest Gump would have built. So we were very painstaking about the details of how we would do that, from rough-hewn wood, wooden floors that we actually put nails. We'd nail down the floor even though we didn't need to. So it would look like it was done by a functioning idiot, which is what Forrest Gump really was. and we put a lot of effort into that. That said, I would tell you this, that it's my belief, and it's a strong belief, that if you're food is the hero at any restaurant. I mean, Forrest may be the hero of the film and Forrest Gump, but food's the hero at Bubba Gump Shrimp Company. And that's really where the demise of many of those entertainment restaurants really began, was they began to think they were in the trademark business, not in the restaurant business.
Mm-hmm. The author of the book, Winston Groom, does he have any say-so about using the word Gump?
No, I'm not using Forrest Gump in this. It's this is strictly a nominative use of the word Bubba Gump, and that's because I was taking Bubba Gump from movie to restaurant, and that's exactly what I did, and that's just a nominative use. Were I to say write to say this is the Forrest Gump book or the Forrest Gump storybook, that would be a different story.
Well, you had to deal with a variety of entities throughout building the different restaurants. You not only had to deal nationally with the name and the concept, but you had to deal with each political entity in each town that you opened up a restaurant in. That is pretty awesome in itself, since you're still open, you're still surviving.
You know what? We not only had to do it across the United States, we had to deal with entities across the world. When we, in Bali, in Hong Kong, in the French Quarter of New Orleans, on Maui, in the Historical Commission. I mean, there were a number of different constituencies and organizations and city and municipal authorities. And you learn to get along with just about everybody you can. And you learn also that you have to, particularly in foreign countries, but also even in the United States, that you need to understand the cultural aspects of business in those communities, and you do what you need to do in order to become an active and solid and contributing member of that community. We were very, very generous with what we did in terms of charity activity in each community where we operated, and that became sort of a part of the culture. Bubba Gump is a very generous company.
Now, there's a couple of restaurants around here that have little retail stores either at the front of them, or sometimes they have a catalog, which is not in the store but online or whatever. You guys had a retail store in the restaurant, and they're still open, right? There's still one in Daytona, I heard you tell Robin, right?
Yeah, they're the closest ones to you there's one in Universal City Walk in Orlando, and then there's another in Daytona. Further down, there's Fort Lauderdale and Miami, and then over on the other coast, there's in the St. Petersburg area.
And do they all sell merchandise in addition to food?
Yeah, all do. In fact, that was sort of a happy surprise of the whole thing. When we started, we thought we'll do, maybe 5% of our sales we'll do hats and T-shirts, and we did a small store, which was a very unusual. Most restaurants just did a counter with some T-shirts on the wall. We did an actual store where you could try stuff on and things like that. Well, the first day, we sold almost $5,000 in merchandise.
Wow!
And and so that became a pretty integral part of the business. And in fact, when I sold the company in 2011, it really accounted for it was a $30 million business separate from the restaurants themselves.
Wow.
Well, yeah, you know what? And it just goes to show the connection with the whole Forrest Gump thing. Tell me about the cocktail menus. I have a note here that says they were ping pong paddle cocktail menus. What does that mean?
Yeah. I had a really creative woman who worked with me by the name of Leslie Miller, and I challenged her about our beverage sales, because in most restaurants of that genre, you can do about 15% of your sales in liquor, beer, and wine. And I wanted more, as you might expect. So I challenged her to come up with some way of merchandising the drinks. Now, everybody has done that in the restaurant business. Everybody has a drink menu. But what she came back with was a ping pong paddle with a bunch of drinks laminated in each page, pictured on it. And it became so popular that we had to chain them to the table because people were stealing them so much. And in addition, though,
That's
it moved our
idea.
mix from 15% up to 20%. And as anyone who's around the restaurant business will tell you, when you sell more liquor, beer, and wine, you make more money. And that's what we were trying to do. And it was really fun. And it dovetailed so well with the rest of the concept that it was very powerful and a huge help to it.
So you totally sold out? I mean, you sold all of the restaurants? You don't own any anymore?
No, I don't. And I had a lot of partners. My partner, Gordon Miles, who was the initial contact from Paramount. They actually called him first, and then he and I spent a lot of time talking about it. But and then a number of other partners, some venture capital groups on the East Coast, and we ended up selling in 2011.
When you worked with the venture capital groups, did they try to give their ideas, or were they okay by staying low key with just investing their money while you took the creative reins?
On the creative side, we had no issues whatsoever with them. They recognize that this is a business that it takes a long time and a lot of experience to gain the skill sets you need to manage effectively. I think that where they provided a lot of assistance and help, and where it was where their expertise was stronger, and that was, of course, the financial and deal side of the business.
You know, it's hard for me to know, because I'm not in the restaurant business, whether a mascot is important. McDonald's has the clown Ronald.
Yeah.
Burger King has a scary-looking king guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you kind of have a built-in mascot with Forrest Gump. Do you use that? Do you use that at all?
Oh yeah.
Oh, you do?
Yeah. When we were putting up the sign, actually, we were just getting the sign had the electricity of the sign had gone off, and I was out with the electrician in front of the first restaurant the day before we opened, and this guy walks by me in a white suit just out of the corner of my eye, and I thought, that guy looks like Forrest Gump. Well, about 10 minutes later, my director of marketing, Kathy Peterson, who's still active in the industry and very able executive, came out to me and said, "Hey, you got to come in here and see this guy." And it's a guy who had got his hair cut like Forrest Gump, was wearing a white suit like Forrest wears with a suitcase, and had the little, he's wearing Nikes, and he really does look like Tom Hanks. And so we hired him just as sort of an initial thing for the opening. And then since then, he's gone to all the openings, and, it's out in front, probably had his picture taken more than anybody I've ever known.
Oh, wow. Does he speak like
Very
him?
effective.
Does he speak like him?
He can.
Well, you had brought up the name Leslie Miller before, and now you just talked about Kathy Peterson. To me, it just seems to be such a political thing when people always bring women into the mix of business or entertainment. I mean, why can't people be people and just people be embraced without having to feel like you have to have a particular gender in some area?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, if you in my book Gumption, there's a chapter in there called CEO lessons, and in it I talk about. I mean, we were known as a company because we had a very high percentage of senior people, the executives. Probably 50% of the senior executives in the company were women, and it wasn't that I was a feminist or that I wanted to. I was actively out there filling my quota of women or anything. I wasn't. I just wanted the very best people. And in the cases of people like Lisa Bates, who is our head operator, or Leslie, or Kathy, or Carrie Frick, who was in charge of our retail merchandise, I mean, all of these people were just the best that I could find. And it just happened they were women. I don't care. It doesn't matter to me.
Oh, nice. I like that.
But you would have got some flack if you had a Jenny impersonator playing acoustic guitar. I'm just guessing that wouldn't have gone over.
Unless
that depends on the level of clothing.
Exactly.
That's kind of what I was heading there. Wow, what a great interview. Thank you for being on the air, Scott. I have a copy of the book, and I'd like to give it away. So call me if you want it. The number is 622-9622. The rest of us have to go buy it. Scott, do you have a website for the book?
Yeah, it's gumptionbook.com. And you can also get it on at Indie Books, Barnes & Noble online, or, of course, Amazon.
All right. And is the primary, is the centerpiece meal at the restaurant, is it shrimp?
Oh, that's a giveaway. Yeah, that's
kind of an easy one.
Shrimp is what we did, but they offer a lot of things: salads, sandwiches, even have a steak and all kinds of things.
We'll go one day. Robin likes shrimp, but I'm just not a shrimp fan.
Yeah, we'll have to go frequent that restaurant.
I was only asking for personal reasons. If they have cheeseburgers, I'll be there. Scott, thank you for being on the air with us. That was fun. And as I mentioned at the beginning, your story is very inspirational, especially from a business perspective.
Well, thank you for having me. I actually really enjoyed this interview. Thank you so much.
Very good. We'll take a break and we'll be right back.
This is a Fox News alert. I'm Lillian Wu. A deadly shooting at a prayer service in South Carolina. The gunman spending time among his victims before the killings at the historic Black church.
He actually sat in on the service for nearly an hour before he got up and opened fire on the congregation, killing a total of 9 people.
Fox's Jonathan Seri in Charleston. In the search for the gunman, a unified